Captain Quizz'ak's 7 eyestalks twitched simultaneously as he stared out the viewport of the research vessel Curious Demise. The blue and green planet below, designated as Earth by its inhabitants, rotated peacefully, completely unaware of the Voltraxian ship hovering in its orbit. His purple skin flushed a deeper shade as he checked the ship's cloaking systems for the 14th time that cycle. Status report. He barked, his voice box producing 3 distinct tones at once, a sign of his growing anxiety. Navigation Officer Lump swiveled in her gelatinous chair. Still maintaining orbit, Captain. Cloaking systems at 98% efficiency. The humans remain blissfully ignorant of our existence, as per Galactic Scientific Council regulations. Quizz'ak's central eyestalk drooped slightly. Remind me again why we're here. Oh, right. Because the Council thinks humans are, and I quote, fascinating primitive organisms with unexpected potential. Bah. If they're so fascinating, why don't the Council members come study them instead of sending us to this backwater sector? Because we drew the short tentacle, sir, Lump replied, not looking up from her station. The ship's intercom crackled. Captain, security breach in Docking Bay 4. Science Officer Plunk has returned from wait. What? No, that can't be right. The security officer's voice became a panicked whisper. Sir, please come immediately. It's bad. Like really, really bad. Like we're all going to die bad. Quizz'ak's tentacles curled in frustration as he stomped toward the elevator tube. Hey, that 3-brained idiot. I specifically ordered no one to leave the ship. What part of strictly observational mission did he not understand? As the elevator whooshed downward, Quizz'ak mentally reviewed Science Officer Plunk's personnel file. Brilliant but impulsive. Responsible for the diplomatic incident on Proxima Centauri when he tried to improve their sacred water purification system. Nearly caused an interstellar war when he accidentally insulted the Andromeda ambassador by complimenting her reproductive tentacles. And now, apparently, he'd broken the Prime Directive, no contact with pre-warp civilizations. The doors hissed open to reveal chaos in Docking Bay 4. Crew members scurried about, their skin cycling through panic colors ranging from neon green to pulsating orange. In the center stood Plunk, all 4 of his arms raised defensively, his single central eye blinking rapidly. Captain, I can explain, Plunk shouted, his voice modulator squeaking with nervousness. Quizz'ak froze as his eyestalks focused on the small figure standing beside Plunk. It was bipedal, with only 2 eyes, wrapped in colorful fabric coverings, and clutching what appeared to be a stuffed representation of a native Earth predator. The creature smiled, revealing blunt white teeth. Hi, I'm Timmy. Are you an octopus man too? Your ship is awesome. Do you have games? I'm hungry. Quizz'ak's exoskeleton nearly cracked from shock. Plunk, he whispered, his voice deathly quiet. Please tell me that's not what I think it is. Plunk's eye darted nervously between the captain and the small human. Well, technically speaking, in purely scientific terms, considering all relevant factors and contextual. You idiot. Quizz'ak exploded, his skin turning bright red with rage and terror. You stole a human child. Now we all die. The child Timmy clapped his hands with delight. Wow. You change colors like my nightlight. Can I change colors too? From somewhere in the ship, an alarm began to wail. The command center of the Curious Demise erupted into absolute bedlam. Voltraxian officers scrambled between stations, their limbs flailing in what Timmy thought looked like a weird underwater dance party. The boy sat on a floating chair that adjusted to his much smaller frame, happily swinging his legs and munching on something that resembled blue cotton candy, the emergency rations that Captain Quizz'ak had desperately thrust at him to keep him occupied. The humans will hunt us down like we're common Zorg beast parasites, screeched Communications Officer Wendell, her voice modulator reaching pitches previously thought impossible. Have you seen their entertainment broadcasts? They have entire movies dedicated to rescuing their young. They call it Taken for Void's sake. Security Chief Corp pounded his gelatinous fists on the console. We're violating at least 17 Galactic Council protocols. We'll be stripped of our exoskeletons and left to dry in the twin suns of Rigel. Attention crew, chimed a soothing, inappropriately calm voice from the ship's speakers. This is BLOOP, your biological logic operating orbital processor. I've analyzed the situation and calculated our survival probability at approximately 0.0023%. Would anyone like me to play some relaxing music while we await our inevitable demise? Shut up, BLOOP. The entire crew shouted in unison. Playing Final Countdown by Earthband Europe. An excellent choice for our current predicament, BLOOP responded cheerfully as synthesized music began blaring throughout the ship. Quizz'ak's eyestalks twisted into knots as he struggled to maintain composure. Someone turn that off and someone else bring that idiot Plunk to me right now. Plunk was already cowering behind a data terminal, his single eye blinking rapidly in distress. Captain, if I may just explain the scientific reasoning behind my actions. Oh, this should be good, Quizz'ak snarled, looming over the science officer. Please enlighten us on the scientific reasoning behind abducting a sentient juvenile from a protected planet. Plunk's explanation emerged in a nervous rush. Well, you see, Captain, I was conducting close-range atmospheric tests in the shuttle when I experienced minor navigational difficulties. First flashback. Plunk's shuttle had spiraled through Earth's atmosphere, narrowly missing several passenger aircraft before crash landing behind a large metal structure. Emergency cloaking had activated, but the shuttle was damaged. Peeking outside, Plunk discovered he'd landed at something called Wonder World Amusement Park. Fascinating bipedal creatures moved about, consuming spun sugar and screaming joyously while being flung through the air on metal contraptions. Most peculiar was the area where smaller versions of the bipeds were attached to strings, being walked by the larger ones. Ah, Plunk had exclaimed to himself. A domesticated pet market. Perfect camouflage opportunity. He'd adjusted his appearance modifier to mimic a tall, oddly proportioned human wearing something called a mascot costume. Children approached him for high fives and selfies, which seemed to be some sort of primitive greeting ritual. That's when he spotted Timmy, separated from his group, looking at a map with confusion. The perfect specimen, small, seemingly docile, and already trained to follow simple commands. Plunk approached, offered the universal gift of candy, which he'd observed was effective with these creatures, and invited Timmy to see the coolest spaceship ever. End flashback. You disguised yourself as a theme park character? Quizz'ak was practically vibrating with rage. Do you realize Earth governments actively warn their young about exactly this scenario? I thought he was a pet, Plunk protested weakly. From across the command center, Timmy waved. Your costume was way better than the ones at Disney World. Can I get another space candy? Alert, alert. Bloop's voice interrupted, suddenly serious. Multiple high-velocity objects approaching our position. Primitive, but potentially dangerous missiles launched from Earth's surface. Impact in 47 seconds. Navigator Lump swiveled frantically. Captain, Earth military vessels are mobilizing worldwide. Their communications are going crazy with terms like first contact, possible abduction, and ready the nukes. How did they even detect us? Quizz'ak demanded, panic rising in his throat sac. Chief Engineer Frazzle cleared her throat. About that, it seems when Science Officer Plunk returned, he didn't fully engage the cloaking shield on Docking Bay 4. Oopsie, Plunk whispered. Tactical Officer Zilk raised a tentative appendage. Captain, we did try returning the human child while you were in your panic chamber breathing into a bag. Quizz'ak's stalks shot upright. You what? Without authorization. Zilk shrugged. We used the teleportation beam to place him back where Plunk found him, but there was a targeting malfunction. quick flashback. A disoriented Timmy materializing in the middle of the Pentagon. "Hi, I was just on a spaceship. They have blue candy and a funny computer named BLOOP." Military personnel staring in shock before alarms blared. Second quick flashback. Timmy appearing in the middle of a live news broadcast. "Breaking news on the missing child case, what the aliens are super nice. Their captain has 7 eyeballs on sticks." Third quick flashback. Timmy materializing in what appeared to be a classified research facility. "Not again. Oh cool, you guys have spaceships too?" Scientists dropping clipboards in shock. He's seen them. The Voltraxians have made contact. End flashbacks. "We've tried 3 times, Zilk concluded miserably. Each attempt has complicated matters. Their primitive weapons won't penetrate our shields, Security Chief Gorp announced with false confidence. But they've launched so many that the impact will still knock us off orbit. Incoming transmission from Earth, Communications Officer Wendell announced, her voice trembling. It's coming from their military command. They're asking to speak with their ambassador Timmy. Timmy looked up from his second blue space candy, his face now alarmingly azure. That's me. I'm famous. Quizz'ak slumped into his command chair as the first missiles struck the shields, making the entire ship shudder ominously. We're going to die, he moaned, all because Plunk couldn't tell the difference between a pet and a sentient child. If it helps, BLOOP chimed in helpfully, I've prepared a lovely eulogy for each crew member. Would anyone like a preview? Well, that's new, muttered Navigator Lump, as the view screen displayed dozens of Earth vessels surrounding them in a perfect formation. Their ships shouldn't be able to maintain position in orbit with that level of precision. Their technology is surprisingly not terrible. Captain Quizz'ak's eyestalks drooped in disbelief. Are those plasma cannons? Since when do humans have plasma technology? Our intel said they were still excited about touchscreens. Actually, Captain, Communications Officer Wendell interjected, adjusting her translator module. I've been monitoring their information networks for the past 6 months. And there's significant evidence suggesting humans have been reverse engineering crashed alien technology for decades. Their entertainment media literally broadcast this information, but everyone dismissed it as fiction. She rolled all 3 of her eyes simultaneously. Perhaps we should have paid closer attention. Quizz'ak stared at Wendell. Why am I just hearing about this now? I included it in my weekly reports, which you marked as read but clearly never opened. Wendell replied with the calm exasperation of the only competent person on a ship of disasters. I even created a presentation titled Humans, More Dangerous Than We Think for last month's staff meeting, but you rescheduled it for a team building exercise involving tentacle painting. Across the command center, Timmy had somehow acquired a Voltraxian uniform and was proudly wearing it like an oversized poncho. Security Chief Gorp was showing him how to operate a simple data tablet, which the human child had picked up with alarming speed. And this button does what? Timmy asked, his small fingers hovering over the screen. That's our universal translator, Gorp explained, his voice unexpectedly gentle. It helps us understand different languages. Cool. Can I try it? I don't see why not. It's just a basic. Translating all ship communications to pirate mode, announced BLOOP suddenly. Yar, ye scurvy space dogs. Earth vessels be demanding surrender, or they'll make us walk the cosmic plank. What the Timmy? How did you access the system settings? Gorp exclaimed. Timmy shrugged, already pressing more buttons. I just thought about it really hard like in my video games. Ooh, what's life support? Don't touch that, screamed the entire bridge crew in unison. Quizz'ak stormed over and gently but firmly moved Timmy away from the controls. Listen, tiny human. Those aren't toys. They control very important ship functions that keep us all alive. "Sorry, Mr. Seven Eyes," Timmy said, looking genuinely contrite before brightening again. "Can I see how you talk to other spaceships instead?" "Absolutely not," Quizz'ak replied, just as the main view screen flickered to life with an incoming transmission. "Too late," Timmy announced cheerfully. "I already pressed the blinking button." The screen displayed a stern-faced human female in a military uniform adorned with various medals and insignia. Her expression was a perfect blend of diplomatic restraint and barely contained fury. "This is Colonel Amanda Reynolds of Earth United Defense. We demand the immediate and safe return of the human child Timothy Parker." Her eyes narrowed. "We have weapons locked on your vessel. You have exactly 5 minutes to comply." Quizz'ak straightened his posture, attempting to project calm authority despite his rapidly color-shifting skin. "Greetings, Earth representative. There has been an unfortunate misunderstanding. Our science officer mistook your offspring for a domesticated companion animal. We assure you no harm was intended, and we will gladly return the child after decontamination procedures." "Hi, Mom," Timmy suddenly shouted, jumping into view of the transmission. "These aliens are super cool. Can I stay for dinner? They have blue candy and Mr. Plunk says he'll show me how the engines work." The Colonel's face went from stern to thunderous. "You've been feeding him? What kind of candy? What decontamination procedures? Are you experimenting on my son?" Mom, watch this," Timmy called out, pressing a large purple button on a nearby console. Instantly, the ship's artificial gravity reversed. The entire crew floated upward with shouts of surprise, tentacles and eyestalks flailing in zero-G confusion. Only Timmy seemed delighted, doing somersaults in mid-air. "Gravity systems recalibrating, ye landlubbers," BLOOP announced in its pirate voice. "Also, the wee human child be accessing weapons control. Shall I fire the cannons, Captain?" "Yar." "No cannons," Quizz'ak shrieked, trying to swim through air toward the controls. "Or a ride. Security lockout. Plunk, grab that child." "I can't reach him," Plunk wailed, spinning helplessly near the ceiling. "My species isn't adapted for zero-gravity movement." Communications Officer Wendell, somehow managing to remain tethered to her station, addressed the screen with remarkable composure. "Colonel Reynolds, I apologize for this display. Perhaps we could discuss this situation like rational beings while my colleagues pull themselves together." On screen, Colonel Reynolds' expression had transformed into something unexpected, barely suppressed amusement mixed with calculating interest. "You have 1 hour," she said finally. "And I expect to speak with whoever's actually in charge of your vessel." Her gaze shifted meaningfully to Wendell before the transmission cut. "Was she looking at me?" Wendell asked no one in particular, as the gravity slowly returned to normal, dropping crew members unceremoniously to the deck. "Great cosmic nebulas," moaned Quizz'ak from the floor. "That child accessed systems that require captain-level clearance in seconds. How is that possible?" From across the room, Timmy grinned. "Cheat codes, just like in Space Conquerors 3000. Can I press the big red button next?" "Noo!" screamed the entire crew. The curious Demise shuddered as the docking clamps engaged with the human vessel. Alarms blared throughout the corridors, bathing the panicking crew in pulsating red light. Security Chief Gorp and his team positioned themselves at the airlock, their wobbly appendages clutching what passed for weapons in Voltraxian military standards, glorified cattle prods that delivered mild electrical shocks, primarily used for herding docile space livestock. "Remember," Captain Quizz'ak instructed, his voice cracking with stress, "no sudden movements. Follow first contact protocol. We are scientists, not warriors." Perhaps we can appeal to their intellectual curiosity rather than their parental rage. "Parental rage is currently measuring off the charts according to my emotional scanners," BLOOP announced helpfully, still stuck in pirate mode. horror, prepared to be boarded by the human scallywags. The airlock doors slid open with a dramatic hiss. Through the billowing steam stepped Colonel Jessica Parker, leading a team of 6 soldiers in sleek, matte black combat suits that made the Voltraxians' technology look like children's toys. Their helmets featured advanced scanning systems that were clearly mapping the entire ship in real time. Each carried weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. "Mom," Timmy shouted joyfully, breaking free from Plunk's weak grasp and running toward the humans. "You're here. This is the best field trip ever." Colonel Parker caught her son in a tight embrace before setting him behind her, never lowering her weapon from its position aimed directly at Quizz'ak's central eye stalk. "Which one of you is responsible for abducting my son?" Her voice was terrifyingly calm, like the silence before a supernova. 7 Voltraxian appendages pointed instantly at Plunk, who shrank back with a pathetic whimper. "I am Captain Quizz'ak of the Galactic scientific research vessel Curious Demise," Quizz'ak began, attempting to sound authoritative despite his quavering voice. "We deeply regret this unfortunate cultural misunderstanding." "Save it," Colonel Parker interrupted. "We've been monitoring your communications since you entered our solar system 3 months ago. Your encryption is cute." Quizz'ak's eyestalks drooped in shock. That's impossible. Our technology is centuries beyond Earth's capabilities." One of the human soldiers removed his helmet, revealing a young man with an amused expression. "Is it though? Your ship's operating system is running on what we'd consider outdated code. We could have hacked your life support systems within 5 minutes of detecting you. But our intel says humans haven't even mastered efficient solar energy," protested Plunk, finding his voice. "Oh my God, they think we're primitive." Another soldier laughed, her helmet now tucked under her arm. "That's adorable. Should we tell them about the quantum drives or let them figure it out?" "You mean they don't know about the Mars base either?" A third soldier chimed in. Meanwhile, Timmy had escaped his mother's protection and was enthusiastically giving the other soldiers a tour of the command center. "And this is where Mr. Gorp showed me how to access the main computer. And over here is where we reversed gravity. And this button makes the food replicator spit out blue candy." Timothy Andrew Parker, Colonel Parker called sternly, though her eyes never left Quizz'ak. "Step away from those controls, mister." "But Mom, I promised to show them the engine room. Did you know their ship runs on something called quantum fluctuation energy? It's super inefficient compared to Dad's work at the lab." Quizz'ak's entire body froze. Your parental unit works with quantum physics?" Colonel Parker sighed, finally lowering her weapon slightly. "My husband heads the quantum propulsion division at the Global Space Agency. The technology your ship is using? We considered it promising about 20 years ago, before we discovered more efficient methods." The entire Voltraxian crew stood in stunned silence as the implications sank in. They weren't the advanced species studying primitives. They were the equivalent of bumbling tourists who had accidentally kidnapped the child of one of Earth's military leaders. "So you're not going to disintegrate us?" Quizz'ak asked weakly. Colonel Parker rolled her eyes. "If we wanted to destroy you, we wouldn't have bothered boarding. We came for my son and information. This is humanity's first confirmed contact with your species. Officially, anyway." Quizz'ak's mind raced, desperately searching for a diplomatic solution that wouldn't result in his species becoming a humiliating footnote in human history books. With sudden inspiration, he straightened to his full height. "Perhaps then," he offered, trying to sound confident, "this regrettable incident could be transformed into an historic opportunity for cultural and scientific exchange. A gesture of goodwill between our civilizations?" From across the bridge, Timmy's voice rang out, "Mom, can they come to my birthday party next week? I want to show Trevor their color-changing skin." 3 hours later, The command center of the curious Demise had been transformed into an impromptu diplomatic chamber. Captain Quizz'ak sat across from Colonel Parker, tentatively signing what had to be the most hastily drafted interspecies agreement in galactic history. The document was officially titled the Earth-Voltraxian Cooperation Treaty, but the crew had already nicknamed it the Please Don't Tell Everyone How Badly We Screwed Up Accord. So let me get this straight, Quizz'ak said, his voice still tinged with disbelief. Your governments have been aware of extraterrestrial life for over 60 Earth years? Since the Roswell incident? Colonel Parker nodded, sipping something the humans called coffee that the Voltraxians found utterly terrifying in its potency. That was our first confirmed contact. The Zeta Reticulans aren't great pilots either. We've had various agreements with 17 species since then, but your Galactic Council remains unaware because, frankly, we find it convenient that way. But why? Asked Communications Officer Wendell, the only Voltraxian who didn't seem completely shell-shocked. Tax-free trade routes, replied Colonel Parker with a shrug. Your council's tariffs on developing worlds are ridiculous. Besides, we enjoy being underestimated. It's strategically advantageous. Quizz'ak's eyestalks drooped even further. And you want Science Officer Plunk to remain on Earth as our cultural liaison? We insist, Colonel Parker said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Consider it community service for kidnapping my son. Besides, Timmy's taken quite a liking to him. Across the room, Timmy was teaching Plunk an Earth game called Rock, Paper, Scissors, which the bewildered alien kept losing due to having 4 hands and no concept of paper defeating rock. The Galactic Council will demote me to cleaning space barnacles, Quizz'ak moaned quietly. Oh, cheer up, Captain, Colonel Parker said, not unkindly. We've agreed to classify most of this incident. Officially, this was a planned first contact scenario that went slightly off protocol. Your council representatives will be invited to a formal meeting next month, where they'll believe they're making first contact with humanity. And what about the truth? Asked Wendell. One of the human soldiers grinned. Need to know basis, ma am. And your council doesn't need to know that we've been studying them while they thought they were studying us. 2 Earth weeks later, Science Officer Plunk stood uncomfortably in the Parkers' backyard, wearing what humans called a party hat atop his eyestalk. Around him, 24 small humans ran screaming with excitement, high on sugar and the thrill of meeting a real alien. Timmy proudly introduced Plunk to each friend as my alien who thought I was a pet. And then I showed them how to use the transporter, and reversed gravity, and almost launched missiles at Canada by accident. Timmy recounted to his wide-eyed friends. Colonel Parker, now dressed in civilian clothes, handed Plunk a slice of birthday cake. How's the cultural immersion going? Humans are intense, Plunk admitted. Your offspring particularly so. But I'm learning. Yesterday I successfully used the microwave without setting off the smoke detector. Your husband called it progress. Speaking of progress, Jessica said, lowering her voice, the GSA has analyzed your quantum fluctuation drive. We've already developed 3 improvements. My husband's team would love your input. Plunk's single eye blinked rapidly. You truly are terrifying. You know that? She smiled. We try. As the party continued around him, Plunk received a communication on his personal device. It was from Captain Quizz'ak, now back at Galactic headquarters. Status update required. How are negotiations proceeding? Council wants full report. Plunk glanced at Timmy, who was now showing his friends pictures of the Voltraxian ship on a tablet, and at Colonel Parker, who was discussing something called wormhole stabilization with her husband and another scientist. He typed back, everything proceeding according to plan. Humans believe they are in control of the situation. 3 seconds later, his device pinged again. The message was from BLOOP. Breaking news from Galactic Infonet. Voltraxians become laughingstock of 7 systems after human child hijacks research vessel. Witnesses report Galactic Council President laughed so hard all 6 breathing tubes collapsed. Plunk turned off his device and accepted another piece of cake. It was going to be a long assignment,